we're going to change out the motherboard of this computer tower here. So the first thing you want to do is make sure the power is off, and this is the power cable, so naturally this will be the first one we unplug, and then we basically just unplug the rest of this stuff too. Fortunately, these all only go into one insert, so you don't have to mark every single one of them. And then this, loosen up that screw a little bit and yank off the side. We have exposure to our motherboard. So we're just going to go ahead and begin to disassemble that. And the first thing we'll want to do is unplug all of the components that are hooked up to the motherboard. Try to shove the wires out of the way. So there really isn't much to these things. It's basically power supply, motherboard, hard drives, and then the I/O. So most of the magic happens on the motherboard. So the motherboard is essentially the computer, and the rest of this is just auxiliary components. And there we have it. So everything should be disconnected. Now we just need to take the screwdriver and loosen up all the screws here. Alright, now we need to be careful not to lose any screws. We'll try to at least put them in a reasonably safe place. Right about here looks pretty good. Some of these screws are a little tricky to get at if they're in the corner or the outside of the housing. Alright. There's one other screw hiding out here. Okay, so here's our old motherboard. Now we're going to reuse this RAM. I'm going to go ahead and loosen all these. And generally want to be careful not to touch these in sensitive spots. Alright, so here's our old motherboard. As you can see, we removed the microprocessor and the heatsink, and we also removed the RAM as we were showing at the end of that video, and then we put it on the new one here. So we're just going to go ahead and install this one. Basically just plug everything back in, so it's Alright, now all we have to do is plug everything back in and then see if it works. Fairly critical step. And that should be everything. Alright, so let's just see if this turns on and anything bad happens. So it appears that everything is functioning as expected, which is generally a pretty good sign. Now see, what had happened with this board, there's the USB input that comes in here, and that got short-circuited. So it messed up something down here. Not really quite sure what, but someday you might diagnose it. But for the most part, we'll probably just stick with this new motherboard and call it good.